Welcome to the oldish, not quite live. For those of you who have just discovered us, welcome, and I hope you'll stay with us. For those of you who have been here before, you will see that what is behind me is not normally what's behind me. I'm at a conference this week, and at our regularly scheduled oldish time, I'll be in a session. So I wanted to record this for you, and it will play at our normal time. So I hope that you've been able to join us. If not, of course, it's archived like all of our videos are. We're going to take a look this week at things that you can do as September is here and people are nesting and planning what they're going to do over the winter months. We're going to take a look at some of the options that you can consider. But as always, first we're going to take a look at the articles that we published on theoldish.com this week. The first one I want to bring your attention to is on collagen supplements. Have you heard of those? Do you think it's all hype, or do you think it's actually something that's worthwhile? You can take a look at this article and you can get a sense of it. I know that I have some collagen powder in my cupboard that I was drinking with water. I didn't manage to stick with it, but I've recently discovered that you can put it in your coffee. And that might be a good way to have it. It doesn't taste like anything, but collagen is supposed to be pretty good for the skin, the elasticity. Read the article, see what you think. Pre-diabetes. Now that's an article that we've published, and we've done a number of articles on diabetes. Some of them have included information on pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is something that most people don't know they have until they're diagnosed with diabetes. And then they can look back and they can understand the symptoms of pre-diabetes. So you might want to actually take a look at your lifestyle and see if there's anything you can do to prevent entering into the state of pre-diabetes. Hydrating jelly drops are a product that was, little scooter going by, a product that was developed by a young man whose grandmother has diabetes. And he noticed that she was not hydrating sufficiently, and he wondered how he could get water into her system. So over time, of course, he noticed that others at her long-term care facility were having the same problem. In fact, I think he spent a week living there. Anyway, he developed these hydrating jelly drops. They are fascinating. Take a read of this article and see what you think. There is a college down in Eastern Canada, I believe it's called the Seniors College. We published an article about them that has added some fascinating courses to their lineup this year. Courses on Nordic pole walking, the cannabis industry, and also on ageism. Now, I believe you have to be at the college in order to take the courses. I'm not aware that they're online. Hopefully that will change. But we're going to talk about courses a little while later in our Let's Talk About segment, and you'll see that there's a lot that is available online. We also published an article on empty nesters who thrive. You know, you always hear about the depression that hits parents when their children move away from home. Whether you're married or single, it doesn't matter, but not everybody is so depressed when their kids move away from home and go to school or move out and start their full-time jobs. Take a read of this and see which category you fall into. Now, in our Let's Talk About segment, we do want to talk about empty nesters who thrive and the things that you can do. For those of us who live in the northeastern areas of Canada and the US, you know that winter can be a challenging month to get anything done. And as we have now hit September and we're planning how we might spend those winter months, even if you live in sunny climates, you probably want to do some planning and make good use of your time. So let's take a look at just some of the ways that we've come up with to spend your time. Education, we've already talked about, but let's go a little deeper. There is the Seniors College. If you Google edx.com, so that's E for Edward, D for Donald, X, edx.com, you will find over 1,900 courses that are available free. And they are delivered by institutions like Harvard, MIT, and Microsoft. Fascinating. So these are interest courses. They're not necessarily degree-granting programs. There are many, many universities and colleges online now that do deliver programs that do get you online credit for degrees, undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, even some PhD degrees. So take a look at that. hobby type education. Now, have you ever had a hobby that you wanted to explore and you didn't really have time to do it because your kids were at home, the family was busy, you just maybe didn't have the time, but now you've got the time? That was certainly the case for me, and when my kids moved away from home, I started studying photography, and it became my hobby gone wild, as I like to refer to it. So you can take courses in photography, in art, whether it's drawing or painting, pottery, languages. SCADs, of course, is online for those things. For those of you who like sports, volleyball, pickleball, and archery are some of the things that are available probably within your local community if you take a look at your community rec center or community center's programming guides. These are all courses that can be done indoors, so the winter really won't matter. In my community, pickleball is something that's done outdoors, but I believe they're bringing it indoors this year. Social groups. Tons of social groups. Now, I did a live yesterday and talked about a movie that I watched on the airplane on the way down here called The Book Club. If you're a fan of Jane Fonda, you're going to love this movie. If you are an older female, you are going to love this movie. You need to gather your girlfriends around you and get a couple of bottles of wine and watch it, because there are some knockdown, tear-producing, hysterical moments in that movie that every aging female can relate to. So take a look at that. But there are book clubs in pretty much every community that you can join into. There are card and board games that are live and well. Board games are making a huge comeback. Cooking clubs. There are lots of cooking clubs. Now, some of them are more along the lines of teaching you to cook, while others are cooking clubs where they cook meals, but then they donate them to local food banks or people who are in need. So you can find both types. There are groups, usually at libraries, I've found, that make things called fiddle aprons. So these are aprons that are put on to people who have dementia and give them various and sundry things to fiddle with. So they're sewn, these fiddle things are sewn into the apron, and those with dementia can fiddle, and it does calm them. So that's a very worthwhile project, and a lot of socializing goes on while these are being made. News of the day or other kinds of discussion clubs are, I'm finding, making a bit of a comeback. So, that's really just you who has an interest in something, and maybe it is the news of the day, gathering a group of people around you. Don't always get like-minded people, because it can be interesting to have your perceptions and your theories challenged. And you have these great talks about what's going on in the world today, and it helps you to keep up on what's going on. That's always really helpful. Progressive dinners. Now, that was a thing that was around when I was a kid. My parents used to participate in progressive dinners, but they're making a bit of a comeback as well. Volunteer groups through your church. Habitat for Humanity, for instance, is something that is faith-based, but they're always looking for volunteers, whether it's at the house building level or their various committees or even their board. I know I was on a founding board for Habitat for Humanity in my county. Other social service organizations like Lions Club or Optimists do a lot of really good work, and it's a very social outing. Schools are always looking for volunteers, it seems, to read with the primary children as they learn to read and increase their reading skills, or even doing homework with some of the older kids. This I would find challenging because the curriculums have changed a great deal since I went to school, but doing homework with older kids can be quite rewarding and give them the support that they need at a time when they really need it. Maybe both parents work and don't have time to help with homework so much. That could be really an interesting volunteering experience for you. Brownies, Girl Guides, Scouts, all of those types of organizations that do work with children are always looking for leaders and assistant leaders. Long-term care homes are, it seems, always looking for people to volunteer there, to read to the residents, to play music to the residents, or maybe to help on outings. That would be really terrific. If you are into music at all and don't know how to play an instrument, what about learning to play an instrument? I have friends who have learned to play the violin, the harp, and the piano at an older age, and they just love it. Maybe it takes a little longer, maybe not so much, but they just seem to really enjoy the experience of learning. And you know, when you learn a new skill as an older adult, it's very good for your cognitive abilities. How about voice lessons? That would scare me a little bit because I'm fond of saying that I know one note and it's flat. But for people who do have vocal ability, taking voice lessons or joining a choir, that's something that would cost you probably very little money. Sometimes they want a membership fee to cover the sheet music cost, but it's not very much. You can also work with choirs, with children's choirs in schools and so on. Dance lessons. Are you a fan of watching Dancing with the Stars? I watch it, and I think it's really fun to watch people learn this new skill. So there are dance lessons available, and it's good for cognitive function. You know, ballroom dancing, we published an article on this. You can look it up on theoldish.com. It's very good for your cognitive ability because not only are you having to memorize new steps, but physically you're moving. And you're moving in ways that you're not normally accustomed to moving. So that's actually something that would be a really interesting thing to do. And if you can't get out to a local dance club because you get snowed in, there is dance online. Truly, there is dance online with the footprint movements and the whole 9 yards. So take a look at that. There is so much to do out there for all of us. You know, your life is really what you make of it. So make it the best life you possibly can. And if you can only plan for the next few months, that's fine. Take a look at some of these ideas that I've suggested and maybe consider taking some of those things up or taking them on for the next few months and see if it improves your life, improves how you feel about yourself, and gets you out and about a bit more, socializing with people. We will see you next week live at 12 noon on Wednesday, live with the Oldish, our regularly scheduled program. Until then, I hope you have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and please do remember that it takes a village to age a senior.